If you'd like to spend a few minutes or a few hours, maybe a few dollars, or maybe a lot of hours and a lot of dollars, Cartoon World is ideal for you. Cartoon World is a museum where everything is available for sale. It's the history of cartoons and all kinds of memorabilia connected with it. Mike McDonald, the manager, takes us on a tour.
Cartoon World is a animation gallery and museum dedicated to the animation arts. We have original production cells and drawings that were actually used to make the cartoons, the features that you see on the screen and on the TV today. We also have the original clay boy, Gumby, who's 40 years old this year, and we have the actual clay models, the sets, and the props that were used to make the TV shows. What we're trying to do here is make a place where people will come and be educated on how and why this is valuable. They're going to learn how to make cartoons, how it's actually done from concept to drawing to cell. They're going to see why this has become so valuable. And then once they learn what this is all about, they'll appreciate it more, and then more inclined to take some home for themselves to hang on the wall.
In order to appreciate the collectible art that Cartoon World sells, it helps to understand how animation is created. Animated cartoons are simply a series of pictures, each one slightly different from the one that comes before it. When run through in rapid succession, these pictures create the illusion of motion.
And that's what animation is all about. It's like film, any type of film. There's a series of one-at-a-time steps that are run at a speed that your eye is fooled, and you think that it's normal action.
Of the many different elements that go into the making of an animated cartoon, the cells are the hottest collector's item. Mike explains what a cell is.
First of all, it was named celluloid nitrate. Now they're made out of acetate because the celluloid nitrate was very flammable. But basically, it's a piece of plastic, clear plastic, that have the same hole punches as a drawing would. And first, the animator draws the drawings, and he'll sit at a table that has a light box in it. The light will shine through so he can see through a series of drawings that he has done already, and then do the next drawing with a slightly different movement. Each drawing then has a piece of plastic, the cell, put on top of it. Somebody inks the outline of his drawing on that cell. It's turned over at the ink and paint department, and the paint is applied to the back, so it's nice and smooth when you turn it over on the front. Now that cell is then taken and put on a background, a hand-painted background, and a camera is stationed above it. So now you have the cell on top of the background. The camera will take one shot of that. That will be taken off, and the next cell from the next drawing will be put on. The next shot will be taken, and so forth. So that after you develop that film, you'll see, and you're running at the right speed, you'll see just the cell, you'll see the character. You won't see any of the plastic. You'll see the character just walking along the background.
I know a full-length movie, an animated movie, must take tens of millions.
Well, not that much, but a couple of 100,000 at least, because there are 24 frames per second if it's done correctly. There is something called limited animation where not as many cells are used, and you'll see that it's a little more jumpy. But let's say somebody like a Disney or any full-length, good quality feature film, we'll use a couple of 100,000 for that film.
Since the price difference between two animation cells can range as high as hundreds of thousands of dollars, we wondered what factors were involved in determining the value of an individual cell.
It depends on what movie it's from, how old it is. The older the cell, the more valuable it's going to be, because not as many survived through time with anything. Also, it depends on what movie it was. Was it a popular movie? Was it just something that happened that people weren't too excited about? That determines. Then the character itself. Is it a major character in the film? Are there a lot of them around? Also, the pose. Is it a full figure, meaning you can see the feet to the head? How large the figure is? Is it maybe waist up? Is it got the right kind of look? Because in animation, there's a lot of extremes where a character won't always look like themselves. There's a squash and stretch effect. Most collectors, I shouldn't say everybody, most collectors like them to look on model. Whether the eyes are open or closed has a lot to do with it. Most collectors want the eyes open. It just I guess it's the entryway to the soul, let's say, of the character. Now you have the cell. There's also a couple of different types of cells. There's a production cell, which is actually used under the camera. That's the most valuable. Then there's a publicity cell that was created just to hand out or just to create some excitement for the movie. That's less valuable. Also, in the process, as I had described to you, the cell goes on top of a background. Now that background is generally a hand-painted background, and there's only one background for, say, a couple of hundred cells. So if you can get the background that goes with that cell, that's called a key or a master background, then that's the most valuable piece of art that you can own in animation, because that's one of a kind. One of a kind. You can have, I sell also art, let's say a cell with a production background from, let's say, the Jetsons. I have, Elroy and a production background, but it's not from that particular scene. Well, that's still valuable, but not as if it was the key setup. The studios, don't recall that a lot of these cells and the drawings go into making this, so it takes up a lot of room. And at the time, a lot of this was very flammable when they used the nitrate. Now they use the acetate, but still, it's a lot of room. So Disney or all these studios used to throw it out, throw it in a big dumpster. After they told the animators, if you want to take some home, go ahead. They used to give it out to the kids. That's where we find a lot of things. Is the animators had it stuck in a drawer, in a basement, or under a bed, or something like that. A lot of the studios just couldn't handle the volume of it. It was a means to an end. And so when they had the end product, the actual cartoon, this was just garbage. And the stories go that Disney used to throw them in the hallway, and they used to use it as a slip and slide at the end of the wrap. Warner Brothers burnt down a whole building full of it just to make room for another building, a wardrobe building. I've heard stories of this stuff being thrown in the desert and buried there because they didn't want to pay for the cost of carting it away. The famous story is that Disney had these huge walk-in dumpsters, and they used to just dump it all in there, and kids used to hop over the fence and pick this out and buy, and trade it with each other like, you'd do with baseball cards or something like that. And the legend is that now those people are millionaires because they had the foresight, or they didn't even have the foresight, they didn't even know how valuable this was going to be. That's why this has become valuable, because a lot of it hasn't survived. And considering that it's not always a great pose, it's not always, eyes open and a full figure, the character could be turning around or walking off. That even limits it even more to how valuable it has become.
Cartoon World's unusual blending of retail store, gallery, and museum holds something interesting for just about everyone. We asked Mike to show us some of his favorite parts of the store.
Well, Ron, this is Frank Thomas's animation desk. Frank Thomas is one of Disney's 9 old men. There was a point where the doctors told Walt Disney to take a break, relax, so he relaxed by building Disneyland. But he put the 9 old men in charge of all the production of the Disney features and shorts. And Frank Thomas, around the war years, the armed services practically drafted all the animators in the country to come and help with the war effort. They were making shorts to collect taxes or to learn how to open up a gun and clean it. So this desk was used during that time, and after the war they gave it to him, and he took it home, and this was his desk in his home. So anytime he didn't go to the studio, if he was ill or he had an idea in the middle of the night, he would do his work on this desk, and he's been nice enough to donate it to us, to the museum here. Basically, it's the same as any other desk, except it has a light box in it. And what that means is the light will shine through, and the animator can put his paper on top of the box, and therefore he can put the drawings in a sequence. Normally you could see through this and see how the action was going, and it would turn like that, depending on how he wanted to attack the problem. Many famous scenes have been done on this desk. The spaghetti scene from Lady and the Tramp, Baloo and Mowgli from Jungle Book, a lot of Peter Pan. So we're really happy to have it here because it shows the history and shows how simple animation can be. Even though there's a lot of technical advantages and advances with computers and all of that, you still come down to the basic art of drawing the character to emote the feelings.